Well, thank you. Well, hello. I'm not going to talk about aviation today, sorry. I'm rather going to ask the question, is the JAMstack the future of web development? And try to give a few kind of answers. So before I begin, does anybody know about the JAMstack already? Very few people. Okay, cool. For those who don't, the JAMstack has nothing to do with what you could see if you were to open a kitchen cupboard, for instance. I think now is a good time for a disclaimer. To avoid bad jokes like the one I just made, I'm going to try not to use those 4 words, which are jam, jar, stack, and stock. So if you hear me saying something like that, you can shout at me or throw me socks, up to you. Another disclaimer, in those slides, I've embedded not less than 32 logos. So as you can see, the background is dark, and so some companies don't have really clear policies about what to do with logos and dark backgrounds. So if I misuse your logo or use an old version of it, please don't sue me. Back to the JAMstack though. The JAMstack is an acronym where J stands for JavaScript. It means that all dynamic requests are to be handled via JavaScript on the client side. The A is for API. That means that all server-side processes or database actions are abstracted into reusable APIs with cores enabled and accessed over HTTP via AJAX calls from the client. The M is very important. It means markup. It means that templated markup have to be built before deployment and accessed, for instance, via CDN by the client during the time it will access the website. And stack stands for stack, which means that this stack is a stack. To get a better picture, I'm going to talk to you about the main types of websites, simplifying things so that everybody is on the same page. The first type of website I can see is a monolithic website. Well, think of them as a website made with your favorite backend framework and its companion template engine, like Phoenix plus CEX, Rail plus HTML, Symfony plus Twig, Express plus Pug. But think of them as well as websites powered by CMSs like WordPress or Drupal. When accessing this kind of website, the client will make some request to a server, which will himself make requests to the database to calculate some data to embed inside an HTML. And the client will receive an HTML with data pre-baked in, CSS and JS. Another type of website is a single-page application. Those really go viral now. Think of them as sites where the routing and requests are handled via the front-end libraries, just like React, Angular, Vue.js. When accessing that kind of website, the client will do a first request to a CDN, most likely, to get an empty HTML page. Basically, it will be an empty div, but some scripts and other assets. And when processing the JavaScript, then it will be able to process the data and request some data to the main server, which you will get as JSON. This last type of website has a huge flow, which is time to first interaction, because there needs to do requests first to CDN, then to process the JavaScript just before being able to request some genuine data to the server. So to tackle this, the server-side render app are out there as well. Well, now think of them as websites powered by those frameworks like React plus Next.js, Angular plus Universal Angular, or Vue.js plus Next. When accessing that types of websites, the client will just ask the first page to a rendering server, which purpose will only be to request some JSON to the genuine server and send back an HTML with data pre-baked in to the client. For the following requests, the client will be able to ask the main server and get back data as JSON. The last type of websites is static sites, but today I'm going to refer to those as the JAMstack. Those are sites made with pure HTML, JavaScript, CSS, maybe using tools like Gulp, Grunt, Webpack, Branch, or made with static site generators like Jekyll, Hugo, Gatsby, to name just those ones. When accessing this kind of website, the user will just request an HTML page to a CDN, which will be sent back to him with HTML that are pre-baked in CSS and JS. To get an even bigger picture about what I just said, I'm going to tell you a story. A few weeks ago, I was having breakfast, spreading some hazelnut spread on a slice of bread, and there was close to no spread left in the jar. So you know what happened in those times? You try to plunge the knife inside the jar, you get all the spread on your fingertips. And I was like shouting at the jar, shouting at myself and thinking I'd rather just throw it away and go to the superstore to get a new jam, jar jam. And that it hit me. I had just discovered the jam analogy. So please bear with me. I have to give you a few vocabulary so that you don't get lost. I'm going to tell you about the 4 last slides again, but this time replacing some words. So data will be jam, HTML will be a jar, a server is a factory, a CDN is a superstore, and for this one, well, a rendering server is like a warehouse. The goal is to bring a jam jar home. So if you're accessing your website, which is a monolithic website, then a customer is going to the factory while they have all those jars stored, and they are pouring some jam inside the jar, and so that you can just get the jam in the jar home. If you access a single page application, well, the customer will first have to go to the superstore to buy an empty jar, and he will get home and he will be like, yeah, I need some jam to put inside. So he'll have to go to the factory to get his jam. This doesn't sound very logical, so this one is pretty better. So the customer here will go to the warehouse where they're storing all those empty jars. And there's a guy at the warehouse who will be like, oh, yeah, those jars, but maybe you need some jams to put in there. I know a shortcut to the factory, so I'll get this data for you. And so you get home with your jar full of jam. But the best here is like you have the choice to afterwards go directly to the factory to top off your empty jar. The last one is a JAMstack. In those cases, the customer just goes to the superstore to buy his jar of jam. How logical does it sound? Did I make a point? Well, are there some other advantages to the JAMstack? Well, glad you asked. There are. Let's talk about those 4 points. So first, security. On the JAMstack, the backend and frontend are really decoupled from each other, meaning they are close to no attacking surface to the hacker, which most likely will not even know where the data lies. Another point you could add about security, if you're talking about CMS power websites. For instance, if you try and go to a JAMstack site and type /wp-admin, nothing is going to happen because, again, the data doesn't lie where the website lies. This may be like something where we don't take into consideration as developers, but when you consider how many of the top 10 million websites are powered by WordPress and how many of those websites are not up to date, meaning open to an attack, this becomes a huge thing. Performance then. I don't know much about backend, but what I know is you can add all the cache solutions like opcache, memcache, reverse proxying. There's nothing you can do to make a server be faster than a CDN just delivering a static file to you. Cost and scalability. So CDNs are really fast, but they are quite cheap as well. And they are really scalable out of the box. You have kind of nothing to do to get them scalable. That means that you can go at night to sleep without waking in the middle of the night by fear. You're sweating because you're like, is my website featured on Hacker News or on Product Hunt? Will it blow away? Are my load balancing strategies good enough? And the last one is developer experience. That's the most pragmatic ones. But as a front-end developer, from a front-end developer perspective, you don't have to think when working on a JAMstack about installing Docker, spending hours in the terminal, brew installing, brew unlinking things because it didn't work. It's just a matter of cloning a project, putting the right environment variables, and launching it. But it's also better for the backend developer, which knows that the front-end developer will not mess the data, like launching requests in infinite loops or triggering a state which will send emails erratically to the whole staging database. Why now, though? I mean, as a young developer, I was 13 or 14. I was in my bedroom on my laptop. Actually, no, it wasn't on a laptop. I was trying to learn and code. And it was all making websites for my gang in HTML, CSS, with embedded Java applets. But those were static sites because there was no server. In a more professional angle, you can also talk about Jekyll, which will turn 10 in October. So why now? Why is JAMstack so hot right now? I think the answer to that question lies into the ecosystem. We will review what you need to have a JAMstack running. So the first thing you would need, I think, is a static site generator. So those are GitHub stars over time. So the span is 10 years because Jekyll is 10 years old. Of course, this isn't that meaningful because people don't tend on GitHub to do like a star repos they don't use anymore. It doesn't say anything about installation deployments. That's not that meaningful. But what we can see is that in the last couple of years, some new frameworks or static generators like Hugo or Gatsby really took off. And so that means that releases are more and more used. What do you need more to run a website? Yeah, data, of course. To run a static website now, you have plenty of headless CMSs, which means CMS that don't expose anything but an API to the user, so no front end. So you can use from broad range of solutions, like commercial ones like Contentful, Prismic. If you need to tweak your models, you can use open source one like Cockpit, Strapi. You can use apps. We all have amazing apps on your phones. For instance, I use Ulysses to edit content in Markdown. Well, thanks to some plugins, I can get that done in the pipeline and to run my website from my phone. And if you really don't want to use apps or servers, you can also use just Git-based data, just like Netlify does with Netlify CMS. But to run a website, nowadays you have some dynamic features which are needed, like auth, search, forms, comments, payment, shopping cart, and so forth. Well, good luck here because every single day there are more SaaS out there, more specific, more professional. And it would be very hard for your team to reach the level of those guys. So if you need auth, you have Auth0, Firebase, Netlify. If you need a shopping cart, you can use Snipcart, you can use FoxyCart. If you need to accept payment, you can use Stripe, Gumroad, PayPal. If you need search, you need Algolia, and I could go on. And last but not least, hosting and automation. Hosting first, because again, those guys on the left side are amazing to host static sites like Netlify, Firebase, S3, Zate now. They're amazing, they're really cheap, really awesome to use as a user and as a developer. And to get that last data available as soon as possible, the webhooks will be your best friends. To get not your CI or CD notified there's something new, or in the code, or in the content. So to illustrate this, I'm going to give you a quick demo. So I made up a quick e-commerce website that I named JAMstock. That's a neat stock of gems. Okay, so here we are. So that's purely a JAMstack website. So we have access to data that's hosted on Contentful for this one. So this is the last jam we have did, and this is our not so new jams. So we have an index page. We have a products page listing every single product by kind as well, like jams and spreads. We also have a products page where you can see the price, add to cart, but also have related products, which is very important for an e-commerce website. So I'm going to go back to the index page, and as someone working for JAMstack, I'm going to add a new jam. So I'm going to Contentful here. I'm adding a product, and it will be a peach and rosemary jam. Here is a picture. The price is 15. It's written on the label, but you can't see yet. And I can link it to assets like, I think it's kind of related to summerberry, to strawberry, and to rhubarb. So I'm inserting, and the type, of course, is jam. So I'm publishing it. A webhook has just been sent to to Netlify, sorry. So you see it's building currently. You can see how it goes, how fast it goes. Oh, sorry. It was too fast for me. So site live. As it didn't work, did it? So that didn't work. We're going to see that later on. Anyways, I don't really like peach and rosemary. That doesn't sound good to me. So I'm going to add this one to my cart. I'm going to pay. So this is powered by Snipcart, meaning that I only had to put in jQuery in my page, which was a pain in the butt, but still, and add a button with some data tags. I love paying for shipments. It better be good, right? So here we are. And if we go to the orders, I think there it is, this last one. Or maybe not, actually. So this one, yes. The last one, 80 bucks. So this is the Snipcart back office. And it just worked. Okay, our peach and rosemary didn't show up. Something must be wrong. But we still can use Algolia to search for jams, which is, again, a SaaS. We are using JavaScript to get data from it. Like you can request for chocolate and hazelnut spread and get on this page. You'll never guess the brand of this spread, though. And to hand up my demo, I can send a contact to JAMstack. So I'm Henri. So I liked it, but why were there no rosemary? Okay, so you see, on this website, we've been using Algolia, we've been using Typeform, and we've been using, it showed up. This site is so 5 minutes ago. Thank you. So anyways. Is this still static? I don't know about you, but to me, it just looked like an ordinary website as a user. Again, to get as fast as possible, but not fast enough for that demo. Content and code are entitled to send data to CI build via webhooks so that the data is really up to date as fast as possible. Can take from a minute to then 5 minutes. And that's how it works. Is this the future though? Should we just all hop in our flying cars and take the Gold Rush convoy to this stack? This is poetry. Hold on a sec. I have to I have to talk to you about limitations first, because on the JAMstack, you've understand it. One URL is one file with some data baked in, meaning that it's the same content for everybody. Of course, you could have some fancy setup. For instance, let's say you would like to have those features like people looking at this jam also about this other jam, or last time you went, you checked out this jam, why don't you go back to this jam? Well, it could be done using analytics, and it would be really difficult. So difficult, I think, that it wouldn't be an advantage anymore to use the JAMstack, because I think that JAMstack is more for data consumption websites rather than CRUD-heavy websites. So again, well, at Teammate, we have some decisions rule of thumb between those 4 types of websites. There is no preferred way as a whole. It's just as a project, which one is the best for the project. And those questions have to be answered to know if there are a lot of interaction with the data. Are there mobile apps that are developed at the same time? In those cases, a monolithic website would be useless. Are there SEO needs? In that case, we would like to avoid single-page applications. What's the client dev team when they take over the project? Does the website really need animations, interactions with the interface, with the UI and the UX? And what's the team working on the project? We have to be pragmatic. If we don't have many resources on one kind of like back or front-end developers, well. So the JAMstack, to conclude, there are really lots of reasons to consider, but you have to check that it's the right fit for your project. My way of doing it is I really always find ways not to use JAMstack. If I can't find any, I think JAMstack is the good way to do. And of course, it's not the future, it's a future. So if we go back to my title, it was erratic. It's not, is the JAMstack the future of web development? It's, is the JAMstack a future of web for your next web project? Thank you, guys. Do you have any questions?
I have a question for you. I'm using Ulysses as well to write some content, and I want to know how did you connect your website to Ulysses?
Yeah, so Ulysses, well, they changed their data service like I think 4 or 5 months ago when they went with a paywall. But before that, we could use Dropbox. So that's why I stick with the old version. I didn't subscribe to the new one, but it's still good enough for me. So I'm using Dropbox, and I'm using a Gatsby plugin to get content from Dropbox. That's how I do it.
Thanks for the talk. My question is, you already built JAMstack website for one of your clients?
I was expecting this question. At first, I would have said no, but I remember we did one single page application, well, as a JAMstack once for a client. So rather than just answering to a question, I'm just going to tell you what we did 1 year ago, exactly day by day, when we had to do a whole new design for teammate.com. What we did by then, we really wanted to go to a JAMstack, but it was an old website which had free dynamic features, which were careers, blog, and contact models. So we didn't really have time to hop in and set up all the webhooks, try to migrate the data to CMS. So what we did at first is just build Ruby on Rails without using any data, rather than just static files containing really unique data, because every single page of our services or our clients is really unique. That's why we try to do. So by not using HTML but ERB, we made that possible to try and migrate later on easily. Nowadays, well, like a month ago, we switched our careers page to a different SaaS, which is a welcome kit. So we are going one step further towards we can make that happen direction. And I think after this talk, everybody will want to do it as fast as possible. Because, of course, if as a company you can show your website and tell them, well, we are using this solution, well, of course, it's easier to sell to clients.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for the talk. I'm very curious of the way of the process which involves pasting data and complying. Could you make a focus on it, and maybe explaining the other strategies that Contentful is providing? Maybe some Git analogies, Git-based solutions and stuff.
Sorry, say that again.
You're using Contentful with some sort of webhooks, if I get it. But in the introduction, you said there are other options, like Git-based one and stuff. Can you focus on it, please?
Okay, so if you use, for instance, Netlify CMS, which is powered by Git, then again, it will be another repo, which will be sending some webhooks to your CI then, if you don't want to use Netlify. So that CI will be able to pull some data from the code repo and from the data repo and merge them together to, well, what we're using is Gatsby again. The good thing with Gatsby is, again, the ecosystem of plugins. Almost every single LSCMS or Git-based solution I know have some plugin in Netlify, in Gatsby, sorry.
We're running a bit late, sorry.
All right.
Thank you.